kick off our deep dive. We're tackling Francis Parkman's The Oregon Trail.
You know, it's more than just some dusty old travelogue.
Right. This book is our time machine.
Totally. A journey straight back to the 1840s, the American West, on the edge of huge changes.
In Parkman, he just drops us right into the action.
Starting in Missouri, that bustling frontier town, the gateway to the West.
Surrounded by these larger-than-life characters, mountain men,
Right.
immigrants, traders.
Doesn't just tell us about them, though. He really brings out their personalities, their motivations, their quirks.
Like we're right there on that crowded steamboat with them.
Exactly.
Oh, and those battering rams he talks about. You know, whole tree trunks floating down the Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
That's a wild way to start a journey.
It really sets the scene, though, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
for the challenges to come, the wildness of it all, not a trip for the faint of heart.
And even early on, Parkman hints, that his travel buddies, maybe not all of them are cut out for this.
Makes you wonder how he handled all that, on top of everything else.
That's what I love about Parkman's writing. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. The mud, the storms, breakdowns, the constant danger.
He lays it all out there.
It's a far cry from those romanticized Western movies we see all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Parkman wants us to understand the sheer scale of it all and how unforgiving that landscape could be. The prairies, the rivers, the buffalo herds.
Beautiful and dangerous at the same time.
Demanding resilience, resourcefulness.
And sometimes throwing you a curveball, like when Parkman and his group get lost, stumble right into an Iowa Indian village.
Oh, yeah.
He describes that encounter so well, gives us a glimpse into a whole different culture.
Really important anecdote, too. I mean, it shows just how diverse Native American cultures were back then. And it makes you think about how Parkman saw those cultures. Was he just an observer? Or was he, wrestling with his own biases?
It's a good point. We're reading a first-hand account from a very specific time. But even with its limitations, Parkman's perspective gives us valuable insight into those complex dynamics between settlers and indigenous peoples.
Yeah, for sure. And those encounters with different tribes, Pawnees, Sioux, those are central to his whole story.
He doesn't shy away from the tension either, the violence between those groups.
The reality of life on the frontier.
No punches pulled.
Right.
Like the story about the Dakota chief Mato Tatanka. Such a compelling figure.
Yeah.
A proud leader, but also capable of incredible cruelty, especially in that story about the death of Henry Chadion's wife. Adds this whole other layer of tragedy to the story.
Definitely.
And then there's the dog feast that Parkman describes.
Oh, wow, yeah.
One of those moments where you have to stop and remember just how different things were back then.
Totally different world.
All those sights and sounds and smells. It's a real cultural clash.
For sure.
It's not easy to read, but I think it's these intense moments of cultural difference that really make us confront how complex history is. What might seem shocking or strange to us today, it was just life for people back then.
Makes you challenge your own perspective.
And try to see the world through Parkman's eyes, even if we don't always agree with them.
Exactly.
And then there are the dangers of the trail itself. I mean, it wasn't just about cultural differences. It was the constant threat of attack.
Right.
The need to be alert all the time, relying on your skills and instincts just to survive.
This was not a leisurely stroll through the countryside.
No, definitely not.
He makes that crystal clear, like his description of the Arapaho attack, where he almost died. That's brutal. Really drives home how dangerous life on the frontier could be.
He doesn't shy away from the violence or the emotional impact.
Absolutely not.
And it wasn't just hostile tribes either. The challenge of finding food and water, especially as they get further out, I mean, that really pushed Parkman to his limits.
His hunting skills become crucial.
Even then, there were some close calls.
What gets me is how those moments reveal his character. Like that time he climbs a mountain all by himself, encounters that magnificent deer. He's not just observing anymore. He's right in the middle of the action.
It's that mix of personal experience and sharp observation that makes him such a great storyteller. He's not just giving us a history lesson. He's pulling us into the experience with all its complexities and contradictions.
Yeah, and just as we start to grasp those challenges, he reaches Fort Laramie.
A bustling hub of activity in this vast wilderness.
A fascinating place, really, where all these different cultures and interests collide.
Like a microcosm of the forces shaping the West. Traders, trappers, Native Americans, soldiers, all in one place. It makes you imagine what those interactions must have been like. The tension just simmering beneath the surface.
It's almost palpable in his descriptions.
He gives us these glimpses, drunken brawls inside the fort, then outside, those haunting Indian burial scaffolds. Shows us how these groups coexisted but uneasily, and hints at the conflicts that were to come.
Yeah, definitely foreshadowing.
But even amidst all that, Parkman still finds moments of beauty and wonder. It's not just hardship and danger. He captures the spirit of the West, the vast landscapes, the resilience of the people who lived there.
That's what makes it so powerful. It's not just a story about the past, it's about the human condition, our capacity for good and bad, and trying to find our place in a world that's constantly changing.
And this is just the beginning. We followed Parkman from those frontier towns into the heart of the wilderness, and he's about to embark on the most challenging part of his journey. As we journey beyond Fort Laramie with Parkman, it's that growing sense of isolation that really strikes me. Imagine traveling for days, weeks, just you, your companions, and this vast, empty landscape.
Hard to grasp nowadays, isn't it? I mean, the constant threat of thirst, the lack of food, the exposure. Parkman's descriptions really make those hardships come alive.
Yeah, you really appreciate how tough these pioneers were.
Yeah.
He's a master at painting those pictures with words. The sun beating down, the wind whipping across the plains. You can almost feel it yourself.
It makes you wonder not just about the physical toll, but the mental and emotional strain of a journey like that.
And he does give us glimpses into those struggles, those moments of doubt,
Mm-hmm.
loneliness, even fear.
He does.
But then he finds solace in nature. It's like the landscape itself keeps him going, like that passage about his solitary climb up the mountain. It's not just a physical challenge, it's about pushing his own limits, finding a new perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And that view from the summit, the wilderness stretching out before him. It's a powerful metaphor for how transformative his journey is becoming.
It's a reminder that even amidst all the hardship, there are these moments of incredible beauty and revelation.
Definitely. But we can't forget the dangers. They were still very real. I mean, Parkman and his companions are constantly on edge, wary of attacks from hostile tribes, like the Pawnees, known for their stealth.
Oh, absolutely.
It really ratchets up the tension, knowing they were often outnumbered by the tribes they encountered. Every interaction, it's loaded with uncertainty. You just get that feeling that violence could erupt at any moment.
Parkman's attitude towards Native Americans, it's interesting how it evolves throughout the book.
Oh, yeah.
He admires their skills, as hunters and warriors. But he also has these fears and prejudices, shaped by, the attitudes of his time.
His account of encountering a Dakota war party, it's pretty eye-opening. The rituals, the ceremonies before battle, the fierceness of the warriors. It challenges those romantic ideas people back east had about the noble savage.
Definitely.
And it's a reminder that history is complicated. Parkman's trying to make sense of it all, reconcile what he believes with what he's actually seeing.
Exactly.
And then there's that Arapaho attack.
Oh, yeah.
A sudden ambush. Parkman almost dies. It's a brutal reminder. This wasn't some sightseeing trip. It was a dangerous journey where survival was never guaranteed.
Really highlights just how volatile the frontier was.
Mm-hmm.
Alliances could shift in an instant, tensions flaring up, violence erupting without warning.
It makes you think. What made Parkman do it? What made all these people face those risks? Was it all just adventure? Or something deeper?
Maybe a bit of both. I mean, there's a sense of restlessness, this desire to push boundaries. It seems to drive those pioneers westward.
Yeah.
But as they keep going, the landscape starts to change too, and brings a whole new set of challenges.
The plains give way to mountains, dense forests, treacherous rivers.
Right.
He describes these obstacles with this mix of awe and apprehension. He's clearly captivated by the grandeur of it all, but also struggling to navigate those dangers.
Absolutely. And each new terrain, it seems, brings encounters with different tribes, each one with their own customs, beliefs.
The Crows, the Shoshone, the Flatheads.
Yeah.
It's like a crash course in the diversity of Native American cultures.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's through those encounters that Parkman really starts to question his assumptions. He sees Native Americans as individuals, not just some homogenous group.
Right.
Each with their own motivations and desires.
Like his encounter with that young Dakota warrior at the hailstorm.
Yeah.
The bond they develop despite their differences. It really adds a human element to the story.
It shows that connection is possible,
Yeah.
even amidst all that conflict and misunderstanding.
And as they approach the Rocky Mountains, the journey takes on this almost mythical quality.
The Rockies, yeah. A physical barrier, but also a symbolic gateway to the unknown.
The ascent is full of danger, thin air, treacherous trails, unpredictable weather. He describes these fierce storms, they almost get swept off the mountains.
Wow.
It's a testament to their determination and Henry Chachian's skills as a guide that they make it through.
Right.
And then they reach the summit, the view. It's just breathtaking. It's this moment of triumph, a reward for all their struggles. But their journey's not over yet. The descent down the western slopes, that's just as treacherous. And new challenges are waiting for them on the other side. Coming down the western slopes of the Rockies with Parkman, you can almost feel a shift, like a whole new chapter beginning.
Yeah.
He talks about the landscape changing again, the air, the plants, the very feel of the land as he gets closer to Oregon.
But it's not exactly smooth sailing from here.
Oh no, not at all. Still facing incredible challenges.
Those treacherous river crossings,
Mm-hmm.
the grizzlies,
Yeah.
the constant threat of starvation.
It's really intense. Like that part where he gets lost out in this vast, dry landscape. It all comes down to his dwindling supplies and his resourcefulness.
Talk about a test of not just physical strength, but mental toughness, too.
And those relationships with his companions forged over all those months of hardship.
Yeah.
They really get put through the ringer in this final stretch.
All that strain,
Yeah.
constant travel, dwindling resources, exhaustion.
Yeah.
It takes a toll. And you see it all start to unravel. Conflicts popping up, tempers flaring, those moments of despair. Parkman doesn't hide any of it.
He shows us the human side of this adventure, the weaknesses, the vulnerabilities.
Exactly.
Makes the story even more relatable, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
These weren't superhuman figures, just real people facing incredible odds.
Right.
But even amidst all the struggle, there's still that sense of wonder, the stunning vistas, the encounters with wildlife, the thrill of navigating this untamed land.
It's what makes it so captivating. That contrast
Right.
between hardship and beauty, despair and resilience.
Yeah.
And it's not just about one man's journey either. He gives us these glimpses of the bigger picture. Like when he runs into those immigrants heading for California.
Oh, right.
Shows us those different motivations for heading west.
And as Parkman gets closer to the settlements, you really see the impact of all that expansion.
Yeah.
He describes more traders, less game, Native American tribes being displaced.
It's a bit bittersweet. Parkman's journey becomes like a microcosm of this huge moment in American history. All this change, progress, but also loss. Makes you really think about those complexities of westward expansion.
And its lasting legacy.
Exactly.
And then finally, after months on the trail, he reaches Oregon.
He made it.
You can feel that sense of relief, accomplishment, but also a touch of sadness, maybe?
Yeah.
Like the wilderness with all its challenges and triumphs, it's become a part of him.
Yeah.
And leaving it behind, it's bittersweet.
That goodbye to Henry Chachian, his guide. That always gets to me. Their bond built through all those shared hardships, it says so much about the connections we can forge in the most unexpected places.
It's a fitting end to such an incredible journey. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Oregon Trail, what resonates with you? What stands out from this incredible story?
I think for me, it's that enduring power of the human spirit. No matter what we face, we're capable of finding beauty and meaning and connection.
It's inspiring.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it makes you think about our relationship with the natural world and the legacy we leave behind.
It makes you want to get out there yourself, maybe not on horseback with barely any supplies, but to experience that adventure, that connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Maybe a slightly more modern approach.
Yeah.
But Parkman shows us how exploration, no matter how you do it, can change you, help you understand the world around you.
Absolutely. So to our listeners, I'll leave you with this thought. What traces of Parkman's journey can you find in the American West today? How has it changed? And how has Parkman's story shaped our view of this pivotal time in history? Go explore, go discover, and see for yourselves.